Good evening, everybody. Hope you're all well. Welcome to our chat this week, queuing us up for our wine tasting on Saturday. I hope you all enjoyed the tasting on previous weekend with the two reds. The Greek was a good surprise for a lot of people, I think. There was definitely a few of you that surprised yourself preferring the Greek over the red. There was also quite a lot of you that loved the Fitu, including me. But I must say that the Greek really did surprise in a good way. I've had Greek before a few times, but this was a very interesting young fresh wine that I will definitely be getting in stock again. So if you do want any of it, guys, do let me know. You can definitely grab you a bottle or two. This week we are changing things up a little bit again. So rather than comparing two similar styled wines this week, we're going to go to one country and concentrate on a couple of different regions in that country and just explore a little bit. So this is really, we're not comparing the wines in that sense this week. So we're going to be doing a red and a white this week, which will hopefully keep everyone fairly happy. For those of you that normally drink red, you might find a white here this week that you like, and vice versa. So we're going to be looking at Portugal. Now, many of you, I know, go on holiday up there. Some of you guys come to bar often and tell us that you've been out on holiday there. David Sybil, how you doing? If you're watching, welcome. I know you guys go there a lot. I know that a couple of other guys have told me you've been on wine tours there. So a few of you will be familiar with the wines in Portugal. Now, I don't know what you normally drink out there, if you're whites or reds, but we're going to go for one of both. As far as Portugal goes, in the supermarkets and stuff, it's not hugely common in the supermarkets. You maybe get a couple in the supermarket, but you don't get a big range. Unless you go out to Portugal itself, you often don't find a big range on the lists in restaurants and so on, which is interesting. So Portugal's been making wine for thousands of years. At least 2000 BC, they were making wine down there with the locals planting vines in the southern part of the country, I think around 2000 BC or so. And I think the Romans again, and the Phoenicians came in around 1,000 years later or so and increased the grapes that were grown there, different varieties. They also upgraded the techniques that were being used and so on. And I think along the south coast there and in Portugal, it was a fairly booming industry for a long time internally. However, it never really seemed to capitalize on that potential to be a huge world player in the wine market as the world woke up to wine trade as such. So, we're talking compared to France or compared to Italy or something like that. It didn't seem to want to jump onto that train and increase its export for whatever reason. Now, some people say it's maybe an isolationist kind of mindset the Portuguese had. I don't know, but I mean, if you look at it, they really concentrated on the overseas territories in terms of exporting their wines rather than the rest of the world. So when we're talking back in the day when everybody was building empires and had colonies, Portugal obviously went over to South America and got themselves Brazil. And they pretty much, that market was only allowed to buy and import wine from Portugal. So not France or anything like that. And the prices were hugely inflated, made it massively profitable to be in the winemaking industry in Portugal, but not necessarily promising good wine, just wine, and it was just a captive market. The same for their, I think for their other overseas territories, they did the same thing. So Portugal preferred to concentrate on that. Now when we look at any other trade they had outside of that, really the only thing I can think really is the English. The English probably started buying port from Portugal in the 1100s. It probably started picking up that trade, and I think that trade led to some kind of treaty, the Treaty of Windsor or something like that, back in the day, which meant that Portugal and England had a nice preferential trade deal. regarding tariffs and so on, so that England got a lot of port for a good price, and that was at the detriment of France and other places like that were cut out of this deal, and it was really Portugal that benefited from that. But other than that, I can't think of many other countries that they exported to in any kind of a meaningful way. Really up until the kind of mid-1940s or so, when they became famous for not only for port but also for sparkling rosé style wines, sweeter sparkling rosé style wines. And they became really popular after the Second World War, and kind of put Portugal on the map as a place that didn't just produce port, did something else. And this is mass-produced stuff though, and the quality of this product declined as it was mass-produced. And the government in Portugal, I think, between the Second World War and the 80s, whilst they tried to kind of standardise the wine industry, really what they did was to encourage more monopolism, if you like, by saying that really the only way they wanted things to work was to use cooperatives. They didn't want lots of small vinification winemakers. Rather, they wanted large cooperatives to run things, which really cut down any kind of competition, which led to really, again, just market domination by a few little companies here, a few big companies rather. So again, no competition, and again, probably that's what led to poor techniques and eventually a decline in the reputation of the exports of Portuguese rosés. I don't think it was really until Portugal applied to the EU in the 80s and became a democracy that really things changed for the market, because Portugal was forced by the EU really to overhaul its wine industry. You know, it had to bring its appellation classification and wine classification guidelines into line more with France and with Spain and so on. You know, the EU loves its rules, and you know, we all question whether they're right or not a lot of the time, but let's not go there. That's a conversation for another time. But in this case, it did a good thing. You know, it standardised Portugal's wine production in line with the rest of Europe, and it also removed the domination of the cooperatives and led to the smaller guys being able to start producing wine again, which led to interest in new techniques, new styles, and just a lot more competition, which pushed the quality up. And obviously opened up the EU market for Portuguese trade, which then led to more Portuguese wine being available on the EU market, and boom, we get the awareness going up. Now, Portugal is still playing catch up with France, with Italy, with Spain, and you know, their output in terms of worldwide sales is still lower than those countries, but nowadays it is very common to find Portuguese wines on a menu list anywhere up and down the country, or around Europe for that matter. And they're becoming well known for some good styles actually. So with that in mind, what we're going to be tasting this week. So I said we've got a white and a red. So first up, we'll have a quick chat about the white wine. So the white wine is, it's called a Descoberta Branco. It's 2019, and it is from a place called the Casa de Passareia, I think it is called. I need the bottle here. The bottle's not delivered just yet, unfortunately, so I can't read it. Now, this is a white grape wine. It's from the Dow region, DAO region, and that's named after the river, the Dow River. The DAO and the A's got a little, the kind of, the squiggle over the top of it that you have in Spanish as well. Now, I think that probably means you pronounce it Dow, but I'm not sure because I don't speak Portuguese. So I'll just call it Dow for now. We know what we mean. So this is south of the Douro Valley. Now, a lot of you have probably been up there. You know, it's very famous for wine tours. You see all these beautiful photos of the Douro Valley and these big rugged steep hills coming down and the river winding through it, and you take a boat tour and you get off and go to these little villages and taste the lovely wines, and it's gorgeous. It's a bit different to that, the Dow region. The Dow region is, it's mountainous. It's in the center of the country. It's surrounded by 3 mountain ranges. I think to the east it's You've got the Serra da Estrela, which are the highest mountain ranges in Portugal, going up to 1900 meters or so. And this plateau where the wine grows is bordered on three sides by different mountain ranges. And it's obviously at a good altitude. It's also one of the oldest recognised wine regions in Portugal. I think from the 1300s, winemakers there were taking steps to protect the name of the region in terms of what it produced wine-wise. And that is no coincidence that they grow the Touriga Nacional there, and that is really the home of the Touriga Nacional grape. And that grape is predominantly used in port. Surprise, surprise. So the English and their love of port was probably driving that region's solidification as a primary wine growing region. We've been buying that stuff for 1,000 years or so now, so it's no wonder they wanted to put a stamp on that place and say, right, this is ours, no one else can do this. So Touriga Nacional grape is growing there a lot. In addition to that, its output of wine is probably at 80% red, this region, which is interesting for us picking a white grape. But I like to mix things up and do something unusual. So whilst everybody would normally say the serious wine there is the reds, they do whites, and the whites actually sound quite intriguing. The primary white grape growing there is the Encruzado, I think. And this is a native grape, I believe, and it's often used in blends from this region. It's, in this case, in our wine we're tasting, it is in a blend, but it's primarily the Encruzado grape with a little bit of a Malvasia Fina and some Verdejo as well, okay? So it's a nice little blend. Now, it's been said a lot in the past that white wines from this region and the Portuguese style of white wines often are a little heavy-handed. So what do they mean by that? They mean that there may be a little bit too heavy, bit of a heavy-handed use of oak, a bit too much body, but over-oxidized sometimes. Now, that's what's been said in the past. And don't worry, we've not got one of those wines in, I hope. The more modern techniques have found a way to make the grapes grown there much fresher, fruitier, crisper. Some people compare them to white Burgundies. So this could be a very interesting wine to taste for us in a favourable way. The vines that are grown around there, so including this Encruzado grape, are protected, from what I can gather, climate-wise by the mountains, as well as being on a plateau from the hot temperatures in Portugal. So obviously Portugal's a hot place. If you've been there, you know it's a hot Mediterranean climate, and it's got that very continental heat going on a lot of the time. Obviously, you go up onto these plateaus here, we're going to have cooler air, big diurnal temperature variations, which are going to allow the grapes to be cooled, the vineyards to be cooled, and the temperatures, daytime temperatures, won't be as high as they would be lower down. And also it's, I think, got a bit more protection from the ocean there and the cooler winds as well. So it's a more of a moderate climate that these vines are going to be growing in. The soil up there is going to be sandy soil with a granite bed underneath it. So we're going to have a nice, good bit of drainage. It's probably not going to hold a lot of heat because it's so sandy. And yeah, there's no clay to kind of cause the water levels to build up. So I'm thinking the vine's going to be working hard, which means they're probably going to be producing good quality grapes. So we'll see on Saturday. The red we're going to be tasting now, this should be an interesting one as well. It's a Pie Tinto, and it's from a place called the Herdade do Asporal. Now, this is based in the southeast of the country, in the Alentejo region, and this borders, it's kind of knocking towards the border of Spain there. It's north of the Algarve, over the hills and north of the Algarve, and goes up to the São Mamede Mountains, I think they are, to the north. And it's a nice rolling kind of country. Often I'd say it's going to be lower down than the plateau we were just talking about in Dow. It's classified as having a hot Mediterranean climate, so temperatures are going to be a lot hotter than Dow. On average, we're talking, well, I read something the other day about this place, and it said the heat there is can go up to 48 degrees. I think in the noughties there was a temperature record of 48 degrees in the summer. I hope it was the summer. And it's very dry as well. I think in the south of the Alentejo region, they're typically looking at around 500 mils of rainfall here. So, do you know, I mean, it's hot, it's dry, it gets very little rain. It's exactly like here. Yeah. So with really low rainfall, very hot temperatures, and it is inland, so it's not going to be getting any moderate cool breezes coming from the sea. It's protected from the Algarve by hills. It's got mountain ranges behind it. We're talking hot, dry, and fairly well draining soils as well, from what I can understand. So we've got well drained soils, hot temperatures, low rain, and they do grow a lot of red there. Luckily, they know what they're doing with their reds. So the primary grapes that we're talking about, that we're going to be tasting in this wine, now let me remember, because I wish I had the bottles here with me. No, it's famous for the Tempranillo grape, this region. They don't call it that there though, they call it the Aragonés. The Aragonés grape, so bear with me there for a second. So it's famous for that, this region. Primarily that's the grape grown out there in the Alentejo region. These wines are very quaffable. The Aragonés grape produces very quaffable wines. I think if you've been to Lisbon or anywhere like that, you'll probably find that a lot of the wine you drink in the small little wine bars and the little tapas places you go to will be this grape, will be these wines from this region. We're not going to drink that. No, we're going to go for something else. So we're going to go for the Trincadeira grape, which is another native grape to the region, as is the Aragonés. It's the primary grape in this wine. Now, there is some Aragonés in this wine as well, just so we don't miss out. And there's a little bit of something else in there as well. It will come back to me in a minute. The Castelao grape, I think, as well. We'll talk about that more on Saturday, but yes, there's three grapes. Primarily, it's the Trincadeira grape, which is a native grape. Now, this grape is actually very commonly used in the Douro Valley. It is used as part of pork production quite often. It's got a very beautiful dark colour to it, like a dark bluey black colour, but it is susceptible to rot, and I think that's probably why it's quite a difficult grape to grow in the Douro. So its native area is Alentejo, and that is because Alentejo is hot and dry, and that is what suits this grape. In terms of the style, we will find out. But from what the Aragonés grape produces and what is popular in Lisbon and generally in Portuguese wines, I'm expecting this grape to be fairly fruit forward and smooth. Now, Portugal, and especially this region, the Alentejo region, is famous for growing grapes and growing red wine in a style that some might call New World, because I guess of the heat. They often have very ripe flavours in their grapes. They have reasonably high levels of alcohol in there, and a lot of deep fruit and probably some residual sugars as well that we maybe wouldn't find in the French stuff. So if you like your New World reds, I think we can hope maybe that you might like this wine. It sounds like it may well have the characteristics of a wine from Australia or from California that you may have come across, as opposed to coming across these in a restaurant. So we've got two interesting wines to try here. Both native grapes of their regions, both not the primary grapes grown in that region, and both perhaps under the shadow of another grape or another style in that region, so pushing to get some recognition. So what that probably means is, if you guys have bought your wines already this week, you'll know that the prices are are quite attractive this week for the wines. They're not particularly expensive, I think, these two wines. However, I think that will probably not reflect in the quality. I think we're getting more for our money because these grapes aren't the primary grapes from the region necessarily. They're not the big hitters that you might have expected to get from the Dow or from the Alentejo region, okay? So I'm thinking we're probably gonna get some good quality stuff here that might surprise us. I hope it does. I haven't tried either of them yet. I've been holding off. I haven't ordered any yet. I've been waiting for you guys to get back to me. Now, we've already got a lot of you asked for the wines, so we've got a good list of you already, and don't worry, we'll definitely get your wines by Friday evening. If you haven't ordered yet, I have certainly got a guarantee of another handful of bottles I can get hold of. So if you do want these wines and you want me to deliver them by Friday, do let me know tonight at the latest, and I might just better get them for you, okay? I'll definitely have a couple of spare bottles going, so if there's only a couple, you would be fine. If there's more of you, please do let me know tonight, all right? And yeah, I'm looking forward to this one. If you want to do anything about getting a few bits and pieces in to try and have nibbles with, because obviously this is tapas friendly wine. Obviously we have our deli menu. If you guys want to give me a shout if you haven't got it anyway and order a few bits off there or ask me what might work, that's cool. You don't have to know too much about the wine yet. I can recommend some stuff because I've read around the wines a bit more. If you want to get your own stuff, that's cool. Obviously just pick up some nice Portuguese bits and pieces or some nice seafood or something, you know, and I'm sure we'll work it out. Guys, I look forward to speaking to you Saturday, and I'll probably see most of you Friday for a drop-off. Thank you very much.